Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. As you could tell when you clicked on this is one of our longer episodes that we've done, so I'm going to try to keep the intro pretty short and sweet. Just quickly going to catch you up on this past couple weeks. We got our wax upgrades back. Didn't do very well, but that was expected. And for the Class 1 Restoration and Prep, I passed both of those, so that was really, really great to see. The grading is so strange, though. You think you did really, really well, and you get like a 75 on it or something, but passing's passing, and I know over time I'm going to improve, and they'll be hopefully clinically ideal and all. I had a couple more exams in cell bio and infection and immunity that both went pretty well, which is awesome. For cell bio in particular, I've really been climbing my grades up each exam and getting better and better, so that's always really rewarding after putting in a lot of time studying. And we're just getting close to finishing up in SimLab. We have our caries removal practical this week, and then I remediate my Class 1 restoration the following week. So really wrapping things up, and then we have a couple more exams, and then pretty much jump right into finals after that. So D1 fall semester is wrapping up very quickly. I'll eventually do a D1 fall recap episode to talk about things I've learned and all, but for now, we're going to get right into the episode. I don't think I need to give a motivation this week because I feel like John and Rob did a really great job of sharing some motivation and some wisdom with the way that they balance life and school and how they do it all in dental school. So I hope you all enjoy this episode. Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily and then distribute it everywhere and even earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters. Here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right away from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify, but also everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available, and you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. Did I mention it is totally free, no catch? I've been using Spotify for Podcasters since the very beginning of my show, and now we're nearing our 200th episode, so I can definitely say it's an easy platform, and I've really loved using it. So be sure to download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right. Hi, everyone. So I'm joined with some classmates today to talk about time management. So you already know me, but I'll let them introduce themselves. All right, John.
Hi, my name is John Robertson, and like Haley said, I'm her classmate in our D1 class of 2024. There's a little history on myself. I also went to Michigan State. I was part of the Lyman Briggs Residential Science College. I majored in physiology, and some things that I was involved in my time there. I was an undergraduate learning assistant for cell and molecular bio class. I worked in a mitochondrial physiology lab, and something fun I did for a job senior year was I bartended at Harper's, which was a good time. Kind of a little bit more about me applying to dental school. I applied to 8 total schools, which just kind of seemed like the average of what most people were applying to. And I decided which ones I would apply to kind of based off like location, the statistics averages, the in and out of state acceptance averages, and things like that. And some things I'm involved in, specifically to our D1 class, is I'm on the Honor Council. So that's something I did right off the bat.
What's up? My name's Robert. I am also in the 2024 class, and I went to Michigan State. I majored in neuroscience, and in undergrad I was involved in a lot of different things. I was in ASMSU, which was the student government group, my freshman and sophomore year. And then I was in a little bit of pre-dental club for the first 2 years. And then my junior and senior year, I worked at a gym at my hometown and in East Lansing. And then I did online work, basically as like a customer service type deal, just a little side hustle. Then where I applied to dental school, I applied to 10 schools, kind of just all over, just check it out, get interviews at places, see what I really liked instead of trying to stay in state. And what I'm involved in D1 year, I am in DSS, which is Dental Students with Sustainability, and the DSBA, which is Dental Student Business Association. I chose to join those because I didn't really know much about either of them, and I'm interested in them. So I chose to check them out.
Okay, so the next thing people were curious about was how like specialization affects your dental school experience. I know I personally don't want to specialize, and I know that's off the table, so I think it kind of took away a lot of like stress with trying to get perfect grades. But what is your guys' outlook for specializing or not so far?
So I started off the summer semester really not exactly sure if I wanted to specialize or not. And what I ran with that as, let me just prepare as if I'm going to, in case I figured out later on that I would want to. And I mostly just wanted to capitalize on everything with COVID and being online over the summer. I just figured like this is a good chance to, since everything's online, we only have lecture classes right now, no labs or things we have to go to. Like this is a good chance to sit down and focus and get some solid grades into your GPA. And I was fortunate to start off strong over the summer since, like I said, everything was online. So now I'm mostly just motivated to try and keep it up, which is a lot more difficult this semester because we're in a lot more classes. But for any students that would hope to specialize, if you're going into dental school knowing that you want to, I'd say that I think it's just important to recognize that it is going to be a lot of work and like a sacrifice. However, but if it's something that you want to do, then it'll be well worth it. Our classes, we're really good at helping each other and limiting competition, but at the end of the day, there's a limited number of specialty spots, and if it's something that you do want to do, I think, be a little competitive and try and be the best that you can be in your classes. And with that, don't try and compare your scores to like everybody else, but just after an exam, just try and think like, was this the best that I could do?
Nice. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I kind of have like a different route, kind of like you, Haley. I didn't really plan on specializing. It never really was a route for me. Mm-hmm. So like general dentistry, when I was shadowing, I was like, this is a great deal because you get to see your patients. You could be able to see one patient your whole career, and it is kind of cool to see the progression or just how they're doing outside of the office, which was always something of interest for me. I don't really think it affected how I study, but more of how I do. Because like you still always want to know the material, but to shoot for an A or an undergrad is like, I don't want to miss a question really. Like I want to go above the average. But now it's kind of, the difficulty's a lot higher. So it's way harder, but sorry if that scared anyone. But it's just one of those things you kind of have to know what your route is. And if you want to do it, send it and do your best for it. But if not, don't fully stress yourself out with it.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's so good for us to remember that we do want to try to learn as much as we can because we're still going to be dentists, whether we're specialists or general dentists. So I think everyone in our class is still like trying their best, but it's just like extremely difficult to get A's on exams in dental school, I feel like. And that's kind of what you need to specialize. So you just have to come in with like the right mentality, I think.
Yeah, that's one thing I have been trying to keep in mind is that like at this point in dental school, it's more important to feel like you're learning and can like able to retain and apply the material versus like on a lot of our exams, there's random questions that are super specific that are just from like one sub bullet point on a PowerPoint slide. And it's just important to not get bent out of shape on things like that, that it might be the question that dropped you from an A to a B on an exam or something. But if you feel like you're learning the material well at this point, I think that's what I try to work on finding more important than just a percentage on the exam.
That's a good outlook for sure. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is you kind of already went over like what you're involved in D1 year outside of studying, but how did you decide like what you want on your plate, including like socializing, whatever you do for like yourself and also like extracurriculars and everything? I'll let you go first, Rob.
Yeah. So for the clubs I decided to do, I already said this kind of, it was like what interested me and what I didn't know. Like in undergrad, it was fully natural science or neuroscience for me. And for the business association, like I know literally nothing about business. So it was one of those things like if they could help you run your practice or help you even understand like the X's and O's of stuff, then that would just be very beneficial. And then with the sustainability club, it is interesting with like dentists and like the office and how everything has to be sterilized and clean and a lot of things non-reusable, like how we can recycle it and how we can decrease our carbon footprint, like make it a little easier on everyone else. And like just free time I kind of just do whatever, like on weekends, kind of see what everyone else is doing. If everyone's chilling, then we'll chill. But sometimes if there's exams on Monday, Friday, we're probably not going to go out and stuff like that, or.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, I joined like a ton of things just because like I figured first year kind of feel out what I get out of the organizations, and especially this year with COVID, like they're not their normal organizations because they can't have in-person meetings, and some clubs are like based on volunteering and that's not happening. So I kind of figured I would check out a few things first year, see what I like the most, and then in the future kind of tailor it back and like get leadership and everything and decrease the amount of stuff I'm involved in. But it's important to like leave time in your schedule outside of school and outside of clubs and stuff for like your own things or other interests and everything.
I actually did the opposite of you.
Yeah.
So I did 2 clubs because we were online and like the meetings and getting the full on experience. I didn't know how beneficial it would be because a lot of it's lunch and learns right now, and we have SimLab or we have something synchronous that it was planned for different classes, which they can't accommodate for everyone's classes. So I did 2 clubs instead of the 6 you did,
Yeah.
but they both have pros and cons to it.
Yeah, for sure. Just more expensive the way I did it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm really like getting the rewards from how much like I'm paying, but that's something I'll know by the end of the year, I guess. What about you, John?
So yeah, I tried to not like overcommit to anything for the first part of this year, especially like we said with COVID, a lot of things aren't operating normally and our time is really limited. So I wanted to make sure what I'm doing is like really worth my time investment if I'm going to be doing that. And like for me personally, like Zoom meetings and stuff, I always find them like hard to really stick and pay attention to. And that's just the sad reality of a lot of things are just over Zoom and everything right now. So I kind of figured for this first year or maybe just this first semester, like kind of lay low, see what other people are doing, see what people feel like they're getting a lot of utility out of. And that's kind of what I did in undergrad too. I didn't join too many things like right off the bat. I just kind of laid low for a while, saw what other people are doing, saw if they liked it or not, and then kind of let other people figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not like it's very different than undergrad because you don't need to be involved in extracurriculars. Like it's something that you actually want to do. Again, unless you're applying to a specialty program, like it's really just to supplement your education, which is why like DSBA is so important, like to learn about business and like practice management and stuff that we don't really get in school. So I think like that's more of why you're picking organizations rather than like to build a resume or something, because jobs don't really care what clubs you're in.
Yeah, that's one of the main reasons I ran to be on the honor council is because it's a pretty low time commitment. But it's still something that you can stick with over the multiple years and become like be good at it, know how the school runs, and still meet faculty and the admin and stuff from being on it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So people were always asking like how much do you study in dental school? So what's like a typical week look like if we have like an exam or two? How much time are you spending on school? You can go first if you want.
Me? Okay, well this one's going to be watered down compared to John's, but I kind of treat studying almost like a 9-to-5 job. I'd say I go around like 40 hours a week, honestly, 9 to 5. There's breaks in between, obviously. Maybe I start at 7. Maybe I end at 2 one day. It kind of all depends. If we have exams, like this week we have exams, everyone in our house, it's John and then our roommate Himmel. Ryan Himmel. We wake up fairly early. We kind of relax during the morning, get like our stuff done that we didn't finish or we want to improve on from the next day, and then we start the lectures. Our exams, the first month and a half, is like every 3 weeks we had a ton of exams, which I liked because you could give yourself a chill week of just keeping up on lectures. But the last month or so, we had, 2 exams every week for 3 weeks. And that was kind of hard to schedule. So we got done Friday, and then Monday we had something. And then, so it was kind of just grinding through it. Like, there were 2 days I woke up at 4 to study because I was tired. So I went to bed at 10, wake up at 4, study till whatever time the exam is. So it kind of just all depends on what the scheduling is. But if it's a good every 3 week, probably just a normal work week. Just put on your bucket hat, 9 to 5.
Do you feel like you're actually like keeping up on every class?
No.
Because I definitely don't. Like there's always something kind of on the back burner and like you have to play catch up for it at some point, I feel like.
There's probably like a big 3 of classes. Like what's the most important, and then including sim lab and the waxing we had. So it's almost just taking care of 3 classes and then kind of figuring out what to do with the other however many classes we're in.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I'd say in a normal week, I probably study like 60 to 70 hours a week. I don't really have any certain time frames of where I'm like, I'm going to study from like this time to this time today. I'm just the kind of person where like in my head, I know what I want to do, and will just take as long as it takes to do it. The way I go about studying is I use Anki a lot, and I make my own Anki cards for classes, which for me works very, very well, but it's pretty time consuming to make all of the Anki cards for classes. So it's like, I kind of say it's like the one instance where working smarter is working harder and longer, but it works well for me, and it really helps me retain all the information if you keep up with the scheduled Anki cards for a long period of time. And between weeks with exams or non-exam weeks, I'd say the time I spend studying really doesn't change too much. What changes is like what I'm more focused on. If we have a week with like 3 exams, then I'm going to push like all the other classes aside and just study for those. And then if the next week is more laid back exam wise, then it's just catch up with everything that you put on the back burner the week prior. But I still try to do something fun on a Friday or Saturday of a chill week. My roommates are good at making sure I do something fun because like I said, I'm the type of person that like I can just sit at my desk all day and not realize that I'm missing out on things.
Yeah.
So they help me out with that.
That's good.
For sure.
Yeah, I think for me it's just very like just being aware of what we have coming up. Like I'm always kind of looking like 2 weeks ahead to know like what I'm going to start spending my time on. The hours I study really just depends, what's on our plate that week, like which exams we have and stuff. So sometimes like I wake up at 7 and I study for 3 hours. I usually like do like 2 or 3 hour chunks, and then like I take like a 2 or something hour break, and I probably study 6 or 8 hours a day with like a big break at some point. But that's like some days, and some days I like almost take like a half day off. It just kind of like based on what we can do. If like I can get by taking a day off and like relaxing and like getting myself reset, then like I'm gonna do it. But I definitely like base most of my schedule around my sleep. Like I have to get my like 8 or 9 hours. So if that means like going to bed early and like studying 1 less hour for an exam, like usually I'll do it unless I really feel unprepared or something. But I'm pretty strict about my sleep schedule, I would say, and that's kind of what my study schedule bases around.
One kind of like guideline I try and follow, which I think works well, is like I wake up assuming that I'm just going to study all day, and I don't really kind of think about like, if it's a weekend or something. Like I know I said Friday or Saturday I'll try to, because usually that's when stuff's going on. But I mean, if it's a Friday and nobody's doing anything, I'd say just study for the whole day. Like just because it's a Friday, like doesn't mean you don't have to take the day off, because then if something really fun comes up Saturday and it takes the whole chunk of the day, you're like, okay, sweet, nothing is going on. I took advantage of it on Friday. now I can take half a day off or a full day off on Saturday and not feel guilty. Versus if I just sat on the couch because it was Friday.
That's what I do.
Yeah, then I might be less likely to say yes to something fun on Saturday. So it's like I try and just kind of wake up, and if nothing's going on, then I'll just fill that time with doing work, and then because fun things are always going to pop up. So it's like,
sure.
But you don't know when. Could be on a Wednesday. Could be on a...
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I need to be more like that. But as of now, I'm not.
I'm like you, Haley.
Yeah.
I hit 5 on Friday, and then I'm checked out. Out and see you Monday.
Yeah.
No, I'll see you Sunday.
Yeah, it just depends on the circumstance. If it's like I really, really have to, I will. But unless I absolutely have to, I probably will stop doing school. Okay, so how do you guys like make time for what you need outside of school? Whether that's like fun things, stress relief, just relaxing, working out, seeing family, friends. How do you kind of make sure you can do that?
Making time for myself. I try to do exercise right in the morning so I get it out of the way. Try to stay healthy with stuff like that. Keep moving. I always midway through the day or even first thing in the morning I read, journal something down, kind of like give yourself a schedule, or even at the end of the day tell you, write down what you did so you kind of have an understanding of what you did, because we have so much. It could hit 4 o'clock and you're like, whoa, it's 4. What have I done all day? Then you write it down. You're like, okay, I've done a lot. So giving yourself that. I like doing walks. I take my phone, leave my phone in my apartment, go for a walk, kind of just think, or like even get some fresh air because we're in the apartment all day. Listen to music all the time. My roommates probably get tired of that. I rarely put headphones in unless I need to. And then fun things and like stuff to like relax to. I always give myself a day. So like on Saturday, odds are I'm probably going to go out, do something fun, or even just golf, just something non-school related.
So I like to fit things that I do for fun as like study breaks throughout the day. So like I like to run, work out, like play the guitar and piano and cook and all these things. And all of these I can do anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour or two, depending on what I'm doing or how much of a break I feel that I need. Sometimes when I'm studying and I just don't want to look at my screen anymore, I'll just play my guitar for like 5 minutes, and then that'll be enough to get me focused again. Every week or two, FaceTiming your old friends, whether it's from high school or from undergrad, just seeing what everybody's up to. That always is something I enjoy doing. And even just a couple minutes joking around with your roommates in the living room in the middle of the day can go a long way, because especially with COVID and everything being online, there's a lot of hours that you're sitting at your desk in your room that you don't leave, and it's just it's nice to get some real human interaction. And one thing that is nice to make time for yourself and do things that you enjoy, like I love listening to music too, is making sure when you're doing simple tasks, like if you're doing like laundry or something, that'd be a good time to listen to the podcast or like listen to music, or if there's a random video you have to watch for class, throw that on while you're doing the laundry and kind of get a few things done at once so that you have enough time to do the more fun things that you like to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. Definitely like the easier classes or the things that you don't need to maybe be taking notes on, like getting those out of the way while you're doing other tasks is smart, so you have more free time for sure. I think I kind of do similar to you. Like if I'm studying and I did like 2 hours of like Quizlet or notes or lectures, I'll take a break and do something that I like, whether that's like going for a walk, going for a drive, doing like stuff for like YouTube podcasting, just something else to check out of school mode for a little bit, because then it gets you ready to like get back into it, because we always have to be doing school stuff. But I definitely try to talk to like my family and friends, like at least someone every day, like a phone call or a FaceTime, and that helps a lot. And I think since we like moved to Ann Arbor in the fall, like you said, with like having your roommates and stuff, it helps a lot too, just to like you said, like have some socializing like randomly throughout the day, whether it's like everyone's cooking or something. It just boosts your morale a little bit from sitting in your room all day.
It's a lot better versus this summer, because I was just at my house doing it, and after the 30th day in a row of your family hearing all about what you learned today. They just are not interested.
Yeah, for real.
It's nice to have roommates that are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny too, writing it down, like what you do to give yourself time. It's like 5 things and we do it every day. That's pretty good time management, right? Like doing the same thing. But probably the most important, honestly, is just chilling on the couch and talking to the roommates. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's so nice for sure. So how do you guys keep track of what you want to do in a day? How do you organize your time, your week, your months, whatever it may be?
So I kind of have like a routine schedule in my head pretty much every day of what I like to do. So I usually wake up pretty early and I'll make coffee and just flip through my Anki cards that are due for that day. I try to get all the Anki cards that are due done first thing, so that because if you keep up with all the reviews, that's when it works the best. And I found that if I wait till the evening or at night to do them, then I'll just skip through them really fast because I'm like, oh, I'm hungry, I want to eat dinner, or I want to go to bed because I'm tired. But I found if I do them first thing in the morning, then I can really focus and read the cards slower and really think about the answers. And that's I like to do cardio in the morning, and if you're just doing cardio at machines, you can get the Anki app and bring your iPad if you're on like the stair climber or something, because it makes both things go by faster. It makes 30 minutes on the stair climber, it goes by horribly slow by itself. 30 minutes on Anki can go by horribly slow, but if you put the two together, they somehow go by pretty quickly. And then once I finish all my cards that are due for the day, the rest of the day is just a mix of, if we're going to sim lab, just taking notes on new lectures and then trying to make as many new Anki cards as I can so that I have new ones for the next day. I'm not too good at keeping up with like all the new lectures we got for that day, because with making Anki cards, it'd be like, oh, we have an exam on Friday, like let me spend the rest of the day making immunology cards or something. So I just kind of, like we said, especially now because we have a lot of exams each week, it's just kind of focus on the immediate task at hand. But that's kind of typical day, wake up, Anki reviews, watch lectures, go to lab, and then just make as many Anki cards as I can for the rest of the day.
How do you like plan out what you want to do for a day or for a week, like in advance? Do you use like a planner or anything, or is it really all just like in your head, or are you checking Canvas a lot?
A mix of Dee, who is our class secretary, she organizes a beautiful calendar for our entire class. I'll forever be in her debt for the effort she puts into that calendar, but I look at that like 20 times a day just to make sure that I'm not missing anything. And like I know I said I won't always like watch a lecture when it's posted, but I like to kind of keep in my head of like, okay, we do have this new one that came up. And then I do keep a planner at the beginning of the day when I make my coffee or before I start my Anki cards. I'll try and write down a to-do list and I always put way too many things on it, and I know I'm not going to get it all done, but like anything that I don't finish, I'll just bump it to the next day, and then I know that like I still have that to do. And if you're going to keep a planner, if you ever think about something, write it down immediately, because you will forget to write it down if you don't. And then you'll forget to do it. That's happened to me a lot, where I'm like, oh, I know this will be due, and then it's like the day of, and I'm like, if I would have wrote it down 2 days ago when I thought about it.
Yeah, that gets you. That can get you. What do you do for everything?
So I actually do the same exact thing, just twice, double the time. I'm kidding, I don't do that. I guess you probably couldn't tell the sarcasm on that. But I just, kind of the same thing though, like as like timing wise in the morning, wake up, like exercise, get your coffee in, and then I do go through that calendar like every day, 20 times, same as probably everyone. That calendar is phenomenal. But go through the calendar. Usually I'm behind on something. Kudos to you if you're not. Try to catch up on that. Take care of the big classes like our immuno, like our CMB, stuff like that. And then honestly just see what's due. So we always have the red tags of what's due. So see what it is, see what day it is. And then same with the journal. I don't really necessarily have like a planner. I kind of just like jot down 4 things, almost like a grocery list, and like cross them out. Same as John, like usually never cross out all of them. But it does tell you like what you've done, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
Not as complex.
No, you're
sophisticated.
Good. No, you're fine. Yeah. I like cross-reference the secretary's calendar, but I like kind of have my own because I have so many like other things outside of school happening.
Trouble in paradise.
Yeah. So I like have my own on iCalendar, and it's probably like 50% different than Dee's calendar. Just because I like move things around because we're rarely in like live stuff. So you really have that flexibility to be like, I'm going to do Thursday's thing on Monday, and then I'm going to do the other thing for Thursday, not till Sunday after. And you can kind of work ahead or you can catch up. And I just kind of make it work for whatever else I have to do that week with like podcasting, YouTube, clubs, school, catching up, studying, whatever it may be. And just kind of tailor it to like what I want to do that day. Like certain classes I like better than others. So I'd rather do like 2 or 3 immuno lectures in one day, but I know I can only do like 1 CMB lecture a day because they're like dull to me. So it just kind of depends on the class and like what you like and don't like, what you want to put a lot of time into. Then I just like spread it throughout the week if I need to, if I like hate doing it. So this is a big one. So what's been the biggest adjustment so far in dental school for you? You can go first. Yeah.
So for me, it's actually doing something all day, every day. And if not, like you're behind, and even if you do, you can somewhat be behind. In undergrad, for my exams, my exams were usually pretty spread out. So it's like I gave myself a week. It was like if there's an exam on Friday, I start the Friday before, study that Friday, and then you have like a month off. Like aside for that class. But for here, it's every 2.5 weeks we have an exam. So you always have to be doing something. And for me, I forgot to mention in undergrad I was in Greek life. Probably didn't have to mention that. But all my friends were always like, they were just chilling on the couch. Like, and they were just always, there was always someone there to just hang out with. Like if you didn't want to do school that time, like chill on the couch. Like even if you had something to do, like find time to relax. Yeah, and a distraction. But here, we're all on the same page. Yeah. And we're all doing the same thing, so there isn't really someone that will talk to you about their business class or even just talk to you about fantasy football for 5 hours, and you're like, hey, I gotta hit the library now. So that's kind of been an adjustment, but it's not too big of a deal. I mean, we all wanted to be here, so it's hard to complain about anything terrible. It's like where we want to be.
Yeah, for sure. What about you?
For me, the biggest adjustment has just been the number of classes that we're in. It hasn't been too much like the time spent, but it's just a lot of different things to keep track of. Like, I'm not exactly sure how many classes we're in right now. It always changes, but it's like somewhere around like 10 or 11 different Canvas tiles that are on your home screen. And kind of like opposite of Rob, I had, from being in Briggs, like, for people who don't know, Michigan State's like Lyman Briggs. It's like a lot of pre-med, pre-health care students. So it's like a lot of the friends I made there were pre-med students and who were even make me look like I don't do too much work. But so it's like they would always be the ones going to the library at night, and I'd be like, you know what? All right, I'll go with you. So for me, it like the time spent doing work hasn't been too much of the adjustment. It's just like a lot to keep track of. And it definitely is like more time than undergrad too. So it's been difficult to kind of have to pick and choose like which things that you want to go to or which things you want to, or you have to leave early. You know, if it's like dinner at a family member's house or something and you're like, oh, okay, I'll just leave right after dinner because I have a lot of things to catch up on. But it's also, I'm trying to think of like, it's temporary. You know, I might have to say no to a couple things, but hopefully in a year or two, we won't be in as many classes, and then once you graduate, you can have fun.
Yeah, for sure.
You can have a life.
Yeah, someday. Yeah, I think for me, it was more of like the mental adjustment with everything and like being in a class with like so many smart people that are just like, at least seem to be so on top of everything all the time, and like learning how to like really just focus on yourself. Because in undergrad, when you were all trying to get into dental school, you could easily like compare yourself and it was kind of productive because it would help like push you. But here there's like not as much of a point of like thinking that you're like competing with people or need to be doing what they're doing. So I think the biggest adjustment for me there was just learning what my like workflow is like in dental school and like what I need like on a personal level day to day. So kind of what we already talked about before, but just working out that balance took a little bit for me. So I feel like that was the biggest adjustment on my end. So we kind of mentioned this earlier that yes, we're in like a bunch of classes and we have some hard classes that we're always focusing on, but we also have waxing for dental anatomy and sim lab classes that we can go in extra hours also for that. So how do you guys figure out like what time you need to spend on the bookwork versus hands-on stuff? You can go first if you want.
Yeah, so like I said, how I plan on my day is task 1, top priority, get all my Anki cards that are done due for the day. And then the rest of the day, to get kind of more specific of how I schedule it, I try to get the most difficult things like done first, because I feel like my energy is like highest in the morning, and then it just kind of slowly tapers down throughout the day. I'm kind of a morning person. So I'll do, whether it's like immunology or cell molecular biology lectures that are pretty difficult to get through and things like that, I'll try and get those done first. And then if I feel like I need a break and we have wax ups due, then I'll be like, okay, I'll use a break as like doing wax ups. So I'll just kind of squeeze them in between more difficult classes, because it's more so just time spent doing it than like really thinking super hard. Although we just had to wax number 20, which was
hard. Yeah,
it was difficult.
Yeah.
But they're relaxing to do. It's being in sim lab and waxing. I find it kind of relaxing because it's working with your hands, and you feel like you're actually practicing to become a dentist rather than just studying lectures. And sim lab is pretty long though; it's 3 hours. So after that, if I come back and I'm tired, then like I said, I'll do something like wax for an hour until I feel like I'm ready to do lectures again. So I just kind of squeeze it in depending on how I feel or how motivated I am at the moment to do a difficult or easy task.
Yeah, I feel like Amanda and I, whenever we get back from sim lab, we know we're just gonna like plop on the couch for 30 minutes and like decompress for a little bit before.
We do. We call it the post sim lab slump. Yeah. Most days you need to spend at least 20-30 minutes on the couch after.
It's a lot of mental work. That's for sure.
It's just different because you're taking a break from like learning in a traditional sense, but you're still doing something you're not really that familiar with. And like some days in sim lab feel really good and you feel like good when you're leaving, and some days you leave and feel like crap. So it just kind of depends day to day. And like if it's a bad sim lab day, I probably will just like go to bed. Or if I never do like 2 sim labs in a row, because we can do like a nighttime session. So if we have an afternoon one, I personally don't like to go to the evening one after, because I feel like that's like too much on your plate. So days that we don't have sim lab, I love them because I can spend the whole day studying and like work out my schedule as I want to. Days that we do have sim lab, I really only get stuff done like in the morning before, and then maybe until like 6 or 7. But after that, like a day that had sim lab, I'm usually pretty exhausted. So it just kind of depends on like what's on the calendar, I guess.
Yeah, after sim lab, we have a 7-Eleven right underneath our apartment room. I always somehow find myself in there grabbing a bag of munchies and some Muddy Buddies, sitting on the couch for a while after. But should I go with what I do?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. So I like the hands-on work a lot. So I typically, like, given the opportunity, usually like a week or like a week and a half before our practicals, I like to go into sim lab extra hours, because 1, it gives you an excuse not to be on your laptop at all times, and 2, it feels very applicable to what we're actually going to be doing on a daily basis. And it's a great accomplishment. Like, I remember the first time I had like a good class 130 prep, it was like, this is awesome. Like, this is what it's about. Like, this is fun. And I just kind of liked seeing what you can complete outside of an exam, a 40-question exam that takes 60 minutes. And with waxing as well, like, it took a while to like figure out, and you had to contact D2s to get the tips and the hidden tricks. But once you figure it out, it's a lot of fun. And when we had the 220 and 8 due, I found myself spending a lot of time on it, and I didn't even realize I was spending that much time on it because it was just enjoyable, and you're like perfecting your craft. Even though we've done it once, it felt like I did a lot of construction in the summer. I always felt like you're laying floor and it looks bad for 75% of the way, but when it's all the way done, you're like, this is awesome. Like, this looks great. So it's one of those things with me, and anytime you can get off a laptop, it's fun.
Yeah, the hands-on stuff is relaxing. It's enjoyable to do. It's, how do I say it? It's like, it's perfecting your craft, and you really don't realize how long you're spending doing it because, you are just really focused in, and I could spend 2 hours doing wax, and it really feels like a half hour. So... Yeah, the hands-on stuff's good.
That was like yesterday. We're doing caries removal right now, and I had like extra teeth I had to do. I was already like done with what we had to do, but I had them, and I was like, might as well just do it. And next thing you know, is 2 hours passed. And I mean, once you're in sim lab, like, you can leave early, which I do sometimes, but it is good to stay as long as you can and feel accomplished after you leave.
Yeah, I think another thing that's different with this like COVID semester is that sim lab is like our chance to get out of the house. So it's nice to like have a reason to leave your room and like be in the dental school and feel a little bit more like part of everything. And like you see a bunch of people in there, which is nice. So it's always good to just like leave the apartment for a little bit too. So the next thing that I thought was important to talk about is like dealing with the pressure that kind of comes with dental school. And I mentioned it earlier, like comparing your time management skills and your study habits. Like even you two have pretty different study habits. So does that ever like stress either of you out, or did it at first?
Yeah, it stresses me out. It still kind of stresses me out. When you have someone work so hard, it's kind of like, what should I be doing? But then you have to understand like why you're here, and like not to compare, and like materials still being learned. And it's one of those things like you should be the best you, right? Like you shouldn't be, I want to be John. When John's working hard, John wants to be the best John. It's one of those things, dealing with pressure, like even with after an exam, people talk about their scores and stuff. I just keep it to myself most of the time, because I don't even want to think about comparing with someone, because I know how hard I'm working and I'm enjoying it right now. So why would I want to ruin my fun if I hear someone got a better score than me? So at first it was really challenging. I remember in the summer, because in undergrad, usually you don't see an average of like a 93 or 92.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is going on here? And so it is like, just kind of block out the noise and do you, grind as hard as you can, and still be a human, which is fun because, we're here. Like, we're in Ann Arbor. Like, you got to explore the city. You got to do the things you like to do. Like, I just enjoy reading, so that kind of deals with my pressure, because it's not like a science book or anything. It's something so out of just something different. So that's kind of how I deal with it.
Makes sense. What about you?
Yeah, like I say, like whatever you like to do, just push yourself to be the best you can at it, and that'll just set the pace for like everything else you do. Studying is difficult. It's a lot to do. I try to do like a lot of other challenging things. Like once COVID hit and all the gyms closed, I got into running. I was never a runner before, but now I enjoy it, and I try to do things, like set new personal records or things like that. So it's like whatever you like to do, if it's like running, lifting weights, reading, like try to push yourself to get good at whether it's like instruments, like whatever you do, just kind of get in the mindset of like being a lifelong learner and just trying to like push yourself to be the best. And then with dental school, it's just another thing on the list of what you have to push yourself for. So yeah, I'd say, been trying to deal with the like pressure pretty well, and I just kind of make the pace of dental school kind of like with a lot of other things in my life. But then again, like Rob said, we are human, and if I work really hard for like a couple days in a row, there'll be, you know, if I Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday I worked super hard, and then Friday I could just feel like I just can't do anything right now. So you just be humid, moss on the couch.
Moss. That's what you gotta do.
Yeah, I feel like pretty much just to reiterate what you guys said, and I feel like the summer was the hardest part, and like now into the fall, I don't really get shook when I'm like 10% below average on exams and stuff. Like now I'm kind of used to it. But I think like at first it's freaky because it's just such a flip from undergrad, and like averages are higher and you're not maybe in the same place that you used to be and everything. But like even outside of like, I think I just thought that in dental school you had to be a specific study, or like you had to use Anki, you had to be 7 to 7 every day and like do all these certain things. But now that we're here and I've like adjusted, I feel like you realize that you just need to do things the way that works for you, which is pretty much what both of them said, and just like try to do your best. So definitely agree with all of that.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is at this point in our life, like really just figure out what you like to do. Like between me or Rob or our third roommate Ryan, we all have very different schedules. We all like to do different things. But like we all work hard the whole day, and it's like because we all do things how we like to do it. And when we take our breaks, we do things that we enjoy individually.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things we could do together, like playing golf or things like that. So
yeah,
it's like the same template. Like we all have the same template, but you get to customize it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of you get to have fun with it, however you want it. Whatever fun is for you. If fun for you is getting the grades and applying pressure and seeing what the averages is, then you can do it. If fun for you is trying to do things outside of school, then do it. Like no one's really telling you to do anything except for pass.
Set a new daily Anki card record. Do it.
Yeah, the little things. So someone did ask this if it's possible to have a job during dental school. In my opinion, no, at least not during your first 2 years. I know a lot of people right now in third and fourth year have jobs because of COVID and limited patients, but I think usually probably not. Do you guys?
From what I've experienced so far, D1 year, I would say no way I could have a job. Unless you had some gig like doing something online that you could do whenever you needed to, that was like part-time. Say if you worked like for a research lab and you were just kind of crunching data, if you had a free hour a couple times a week, you could do that. But I'd say at least for the first year, no, just, you know, focus and get in your routine and try and figure out dental school for yourself. And then if you get to second, third, or fourth year and you feel like you have a little bit more free time, then I'd say that would be the time to maybe look for one.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it comes out to like what's the benefit? Like what are you working like a minimum wage job for a couple hours a week? Like dental school is hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like is it making a difference? Like I don't know. I feel like if you're already taking out loans, $50 a week like isn't really helping you much. So I think at that point you're better off just like taking care of your mental health and like doing good in school and like letting dental school be like your job.
Yeah, because I kind of think about it like, I mean, we study a lot, so if I think back to the course of a week, like there's probably only 10 or 12 hours that I spend doing stuff like for myself that's fun, whether it's like cooking or you know, working out or something. So it's like if you had a part-time job, that would be 10 hours a week, and then you're like left with
nothing.
And then you're left with nothing.
Yeah.
You probably just have to slowly phase out sleeping and eating.
And like, what is that like?
Yeah. And
that's
then
just
at
not
that
going to
point,
pay off for
at that
you.
point, I think you could get fizzled out pretty quick.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add?
So I actually jotted down yes.
Okay. What do
For
you
like
think?
if you could have a job during dental school, I think it's just like, could you have one? Like, yeah.
In
you
theory,
could have
yeah.
one. In theory, you can have one. Because, I mean, you, like with this podcast, like that's a big
true.
commitment.
Yeah.
That if it's a job for money, I'd say I don't I wouldn't know the point of it. But if
Yeah.
you have a job that interests you,
Yeah.
you could find time. And that's kind of what we're talking about with the pressure of it. If you have no pressure for yourself to get a 95 on every exam and you find yourself doing well in classes and you're not stressed about it and you want a job that interests you, I say do it.
Yeah.
But
Fair.
if it's more of a money aspect, I would try not to stress about it because of the fact of how much is taken out in
Yeah.
the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. If it's something that's like adding to your quality of life and you enjoy it, then like, yeah, make time for it. But if it's just like Uber Eatsing to like make some spending money, I think
Yeah.
just like try to finance better and figure out your loan situation, in my opinion. But okay, so that was pretty much everything I want to talk about dental school. But also want to touch a tiny bit on time management in undergrad and everything. So just reflecting back to undergrad, do you feel like you learned anything in dental school about yourself or about time management that could have helped you then or change your study habits at all? Or do you think the way you did things was like good for the time?
For me, I think undergrad went really well, and it taught me a ton of things that I still use and implement in dental school right now. So when I worked at the gym, I had to work like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 a.m., meaning I had to be up at 5:15 to get to the place. And it's carried on because now I still wake up, I still exercise, I still study just as hard as I did in undergrad here, probably more. But in undergrad, well, now when I'm studying, I'm like, I've done this in undergrad. Mm-hmm. So is it really that hard? Like, is it an impossible task to do? And the answer is always no, because you've already done it. So I think undergrad taught me a lot. It was probably where I learned the most on how to study and like how to work hard. So I think it's improved my experience in dental school.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have a like number one study tip or anything?
Me?
Yeah.
Number one study tip.
Or like method that works really well for you?
Wake up at 4 a.m. and study as hard as you can before the exam.
All right.
That's not a great tip, but
it works.
you're going to have to do it one day probably.
All right, what about you, John? Seems like you've just kind of carried over your study habits from undergrad.
Yeah, I have pretty similar study habits to what I had in undergrad. I was like, it started junior year in undergrad. One of my roommates' older brothers was in med school, and he basically he just showed us like what Anki is. Like I had never heard of it before that, but super glad he showed us how to use it because I've been using it ever since. So. For any classes that are just a lot of information, I am Team Anki. I think it's like the best way to really retain information well, like for a long time. Mm-hmm. Like I said, if you get the cards made before the exam, and if you finish making all your new ones like a couple days before, so you have multiple days to see which ones you know or see which ones you don't know. Mm-hmm. Then once the exam comes, you've already been studying it every day because Anki will schedule cards for you. So it's like, that's what's great about it is once the exam comes, I feel like I've already looked at a little bit of the material every day for like a week or so. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'd say study habits haven't changed as far as like how I study, just the amount of time has been increased a lot. And if I could go back, I'd probably take histology, immunology, and like embryology. Mm-hmm. It would have been more difficult at the time, but
I mean, I took them and I still don't know everything.
I feel like, especially now that we're in dental school, like I want to be spending more times on classes that are like specific to dentistry.
Yeah, but you run out of time.
And like immunology, I've never had an immunology class before, so it's like I have to do a lot of background watching YouTube videos and stuff. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you were to take an immunology class in undergrad, even if you forgot 80% of it, that's like just a little bit of advantage. You're always going to learn it faster the second time. Mm-hmm. So even if it's a little bit more difficult of a schedule in undergrad, and if you know dental school is something that you want to go to, I'd say, histology, immunology, and embryology would really help so that you don't have to spend as much time on classes that, although it is important from like a healthcare point of view, like other types of classes, like I could be spending more time in sim lab extra hours to practice because, you know, working with the hand pieces is what we're going to be doing
most of the day.
Most of the time as we're practicing dentists.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it wasn't so much like study habits that I would change, but I wish I had like a job my first couple of years. I know like junior, senior year, I wouldn't have had time for it because I was putting like so many hours into like running the clubs that I was in. But I feel like freshman year especially, like I literally just would sit in my room and watch Netflix so much because the classes are so easy. So I wish that I like did more with my time at that point, and I like developed better time management skills that I've like carried into school now with like the way I like to do my calendar and like to-do lists and everything. But I think I should have made my schedule like more full early on. Question for both of you though that you made me think of while you were talking. Do you like the major that you had? Like, would you recommend that to people, or would you recommend, now that you're saying take those classes, like be human bio, because I had to take those? So do you?
I would recommend the physiology major.
Yeah.
I think it was fantastic.
Yeah.
It really sets you up well. Like physiology, as you take classes like histology, for example, a lot of like the basis of histology is like what we were learning in our like upper physio classes. It's just like learning to recognize that's what it is on histologic images is like the difficult part of it. But I feel like majoring in physiology has really prepared me well for a lot of classes. And it, for histology, immunology, not so much embryology, we really didn't go through that too much in physiology, but I think it gave me a really good core understanding in a lot of like biochemistry and physio like processes to where it makes these types of courses like a little bit easier. You know, when I say like to take them, it's because like I just wish I would have had a little bit extra so that it would be even easier now. But I think the physiology major was great. If anybody out there is still deciding on a major, undecided, I thought that one was fantastic. Having a really good understanding in, you know, cell biology, molecular biology, and biochemistry sets you up well for a lot of different things.
What about you?
Yeah, so I was neuroscience, and if you want something that's applicable to what you learned D1, D2 year, I'd say no, but I also loved neuroscience because of the psychology aspect of it, and I always thought like long run with talking to patients, I'd love to have a different perspective and an understanding of just humans and how they act and how we're all different and communicating with them. So in that aspect, yeah, I love neuroscience. I still read about it. I still do things outside of it. And we do have a class that is psychology based, and I still find it very enjoyable, and it does help me with the SPI experiences we have because I kind of have a background with it. But every other class, I mean, aside from our prereqs that you guys are all going to have to take, you'll just be taking the prereqs and then you'll be doing psychology classes. But if you're into it, just do what you're interested in. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, because like I thought physiology was great, and then it set me up very well for dental school. But I also just like love physiology. Like I worked in a research lab in undergrad, like I said, mitochondrial physiology, and it had a lot of biochemistry and stuff into it. And I found that stuff very interesting. In my free time, like the podcasts I listen to are like physio research podcasts, and even. Even right now, I'm in the midst of a 3-day fast because I really like physiology and like listening to things like that. So yeah, I mean, you can set yourself up well, but if you really like neuroscience, like Rob did, you know, just go with it. You're gonna find a lot more meaning in things you enjoy rather than something that you don't enjoy, even if it sets you up. So if you like neuro or if you like microbiome or something, do it. And then, you know, maybe take histology just for fun to set you up.
Yeah, because even like though I had to take a lot of extra biology classes that are like really applicable to what we have right now, I still don't know everything. So it's not as if I have this huge upper hand. Like I said, I still score lower than a lot of my peers on exams. So where there's a will, there's a way. Just like do undergrad, enjoy it, do a major that you like, take your prereqs, try to get into dental school, and then worry about dental school like once you're in dental school, I feel like is always my answer to that question.
That's what I did in undergrad.
Yeah.
Just worried about when you're there.
Yeah, exactly. Try to enjoy the time you have there. So let's do a couple quick questions, then we'll wrap up. But just in general, how did you make sure you had all your pre-dent application stuff ready to apply by the end of junior year? Because none of us took gap years. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, so I remember going into undergrad, I always wanted to go to Michigan, so I had the Michigan prereqs, I had what the average score was, what the shadowing was, and even going in to freshman year of undergrad, I already had shadowing hours under my belt because I was just eager to get them done, just to have them out of the way, which I ended up doing shadowing for the 3 summers that we had off going into junior year. So I actually had extra hours, but I actually favorited Michigan's prereq page. And if I was curious of where I'm at or what I should sign up for in March for fall classes, I'd just click it and be like, okay, we're going to put 2 of them on next course or next fall. And for that, it's just almost just staying up to date with it and never forgetting of what you're going to have to take, which you probably won't, honestly. If you want to go into dental school, you're probably going to have the tabs up, wondering what to do, talking to your counselor. I talked to my schedule advisor a lot my freshman year. I remember that because I was just very adamant of having the correct schedule. So if it's going into senior year and I still have 3 prereqs to take, I always thought that wouldn't look too great, which I don't know the application of that if it actually matters. But I just always stress about that, so I got them done prior. And just always I favorited it on my Google Chrome.
What about you?
Yeah, I did a lot of my shadowing over breaks, winter break, spring break. I didn't do too much over the summer breaks. I always had I took classes over the summer.
Me too.
Most of the summers at MSU, just 1 or 2. So I was in East Lansing pretty much the whole summer, and the dentists I would shadow at were more towards my hometown. So winter break and spring break over the 3 years leading up to junior year was when I did the vast majority of my shadowing. Even one spring break, I think it was junior year, one of my aunts lives in downtown Chicago, so it's I went to Chicago, stayed with her for the week, and just shadowed her friends. So it's I still got to go somewhere, but I was getting shadowing hours done as well. And then I followed U of M's prerequisites because I found they had the most out of pretty much any of the other schools. So if you got all those done, you were pretty much set to apply anywhere else. They had the most shadowing requirements, the most course prerequisites. I think the only school I ran into that had a prereq that U of M didn't was Ohio State required anatomy. Yeah. Whereas here it was just recommended. Or it might not have been Ohio State, but there was only 1 or 2 other schools that had a class that U of M didn't require. So these were good prereqs, hours, and things to shoot for, because if you could get all those completed, then you could just send your app to a lot of other schools and have it done already.
So quickly, when did you both take your DAT?
I took mine June 2nd, so 2 days before I applied.
Wow.
I put all my eggs in one basket. I originally thought I was going to take it the summer between sophomore and junior year, but I was working somewhere and I took biochem that summer. And then just at that point in my school career, I just wasn't used to working that hard. So it's I quickly realized over the summer, I don't think I have enough time to do it. So I pushed it back, and I did a little bit of studying spring semester of junior year, kind of as much as I could. But the reason I took it 2 days before I applied was that I could have the highest number of summer days where we had nothing going on to study for it. So the day after school got out till June 2nd, I was just 100% DAT. And I think it worked kind of well doing it one really intense month versus spreading it out 3 not so intense months, because there's just so much information with the bio section or something. It's the longer you wait, just the more things you kind of forget.
Yeah.
And So I found just doing one like really focused month really kept it all fresh in my head for when I took it.
Nice.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, so I actually took mine June 20th. So
Okay.
I applied, then I took the DAT, and then I sent the scores out.
Okay.
Because I was supposed to take it, I think, like February 14th or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I was studying hard, but then I was kind of stressed out about it. And I was like, why am I rushing this if I'm not ready? Mm-hmm. So then I shot it back to, I might have just shot it back straight to June 20th so I could finish the semester. And then kind of exactly what John was saying, like month and a half of studying, like just nose to the book, get it done. And after the month and a half, I was like, I knew I was ready. I took the exam, kind of took a chance on myself taking it so late, because even though it's not considered late, June 20th, it is considered late depending on who you're talking to, but we're also all here, so it must
Worked
not have,
out, yeah.
it must not have hurt me that bad. Studying, I did boot camp. I like boot camp.
Yeah, for sure. So did you also like not graduated, but summer after junior year studied then, or did you study during spring semester?
So once you buy boot camp, you don't keep it.
Yeah.
So I would like here and there look at it. If I didn't have like a busy week, I'd study DAT. Mm-hmm. And if I did have busy week or weeks, I just didn't look at it. So I wasn't fully prepared for that commitment.
Yeah.
And that's why I shot it back. And then I started working that summer, like June 21st, like right after DAT. So I just had nothing but DAT.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, spring semester, the extent of like my studying was I used Anki as much as I could to study for the DAT, and where it helped a lot was like with the bio section, because DAT bootcamp has like a condensed, it's like 110 or so pages of like bio material, and it's anything from like roots of plants to anatomy. And so the whole spring semester, I just, any like little bits of free time I had, I would just make Anki cards over, and I through the course of the semester got through all 100-something pages with Anki cards made over everything. I didn't study them though, like I wouldn't go through them every day, just so that once school got out, I could just immediately go into it, and I wouldn't have to spend like all day just typing at my laptop.
Yeah.
So if anybody uses Anki or is thinking about it for like the DAT, kind of set in your head like a goal date that you want to like start studying at, and if you could get some decks made before then, so that once that date hits, you can just start reviewing as many cards as you can. I think that helped a lot, just kind of splitting up that work over the course of the semester.
Yeah, that makes sense. People listening probably know I took mine July 2018, so after sophomore year, and there's a whole episode about it, so you can listen if you want more details. So do you guys have any like closing thoughts out to mostly probably pre-dentals listening? Anything you want to leave them with?
So we got these questions beforehand, so I spent a little time thinking about this one, and I'd say number one, or not number one, all things are important in this, but be friends with people who want the best for you and will push you to be the best. I was super fortunate to have met some awesome people in undergrad. Like I said, a lot of them were pre-med students, all with fantastic work ethics, and they motivated me to be the best, to work hard. So if you can surround yourself with people that are, like-minded, it's really beneficial, because if you have to spend a weekend in the library, then at least you're doing it next to your friends. And as far as like going through kind of your day-to-day things, just find things that you like doing that help you to accomplish your goals, and do them long enough to make it a habit. The reason why starting something new feels weird is just because it's different from your old schedule. But if you just do it long enough, then it'll start to feel normal, and it'll start to feel weird when you're not doing it. And then build a daily routine with those things, and you'll see the results. And last thing, in all caps, Anki. I'll say it one more time. I'm
This is
Team
an
Anki.
advertisement for
Yeah,
Anki.
I'm not accepting money.
Anything from you?
For me, I would say just keep your head up. I mean, there's times in undergrad where you think you're missing out on stuff. You know, like the movies show you in undergrad just partying at all times, or even with me, like my friends went out enough where I always thought I was missing out on something. But at the end of the day, if you know your end goal, and your end goal is more important than something that would probably be forgotten a week later. Mm-hmm. So just have that. And John said it, and I actually didn't fully, or I guess you realize how important it is until someone says it. It's having a support system. Like I had one really good friend that I just studied with at all times. Like I know I could shoot a text. They'd be like, okay, meet me at the main library or at the math building at Michigan State, and like we'd be there, and if it was, hey, I have an exam tomorrow, I'm probably going to be here from like 1 to 1. It'd be like, all right, I have stuff to do too, like let's do it, let's keep each other accountable. So it's one of that's keep your head up, don't think you're missing out on much, and have a sporting cast.
Nice. So this was really great. Our longest episode to date. Love
For
that.
real.
Oh, yeah. So what's the best way, because people might have some questions since you have like different majors, you took DAT later than I did and everything. Can people reach out to you guys if they have questions? Do you want email, or what would be good?
Yeah, so I don't know if this is released next week, right? I took a month off social media, but I'll probably put my Instagram back on. So if you want to add me on Instagram or message me, took a month off.
Humble brag.
It's been a lot of fun. Probably won't keep it on. It'll probably be on weekends. But my @ is Robert Mora with 2 underscores. If you want to message me there.
Yeah, it'll be tagged on the Instagram. So.
Perfect.
What about you, John? Email, Instagram?
Yeah, email, Instagram, both work. I guess it'll be tagged, but if you're just listening, @John_Robertson9 is my Instagram. And then my email is robjohnd@umich.edu.
Awesome.
And we get a lot of emails, so sorry if I'm slow to respond.
Do get a lot of emails.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.